This tendency on the part of Christians to meet paganism halfway was very early developed, and we find Tertullian, even in his day, about the 230 AD, bitterly lamenting the inconsistency of the disciples of Christ in this respect and contrasting it with the strict fidelity of the pagans to their own superstition. In other words, this was a contention for many true believers because they had a problem with it that we're bending to include the heathen, but the heathen aren't bending to do the will of God. It's always that whole let's compromise. Let's make it easier for the heathen to accept Christ. Let's do it this way. They're not accepting Christ if they're heathen, unless they've been called, unless it's been revealed to them who God is, and they are willing to accept Yeshua as Savior. They are not going to change. They're going to be heathen. Now, they may infiltrate your church. You may have more seats, may have more pews added to your church, but that does not mean that you have a body of believers. Okay? But this whole it's always been this let's bend to their and acquiesce to their mess. It's never the other way around. Now, there was a season where the world would imitate the church in the music industry, and then it just totally flipped again and went right back to the church imitating the world. So you have people like Kirk Franklin who make music that comes straight from the world and puts God's name on it. That's some stupid mess. It's stupid, okay? And God is not pleased with that. He's not okay with us intermingling and mixing worship of him with idol gods. That's just not cool, okay? He's saying that the church has this habit of compromising, and they do. The church makes concession and change for the accommodation of the heathens, and it's not the other way around. You have all of these other gods that were supposedly born during the winter solstice, and it just depends on what nation, like I said, they came from. You have Osiris, Hercules, Adonis, Horus, Bacchus, Tammuz. These were all born or said to have been born during the winter solstice, okay? So the origin does not change. I'm so sorry to tell you, the origin doesn't change. Where it started is what it is. It is what it is. You cannot change the origin by slapping the name of Christ on it, slapping Yeshua's name in it and saying, this is the reason for the season. No, the real reason for the season is to celebrate a pagan religion, to celebrate the worship of the sun. And anybody that's a true believer in Yeshua is not all about that. Anybody that says they're a follower of God is not about that, okay? These practices have been long celebrated by the pagans before King Agrippa coined the name Christians. And I said this already, but I think it bears repeating. Long before Agrippa even decided to call the followers of Christ, the followers of Yeshua, Christians, these pagan rituals, these pagan customs, these pagan traditions were going on long before that, okay? The phrase, let's put Christ back into Christmas, is a joke. That's some stupid foolishness, because Christ was never in Christmas. It is a pagan holiday, okay? And it really should say, let's put God back into our lives, or let's follow the example of Christ. That should be the saying of the time, okay? Not let's put Christ back into Christmas. He was never there. Never there, okay? This time of the year was also known as the Feast of Christmas, one of the most vile and immoral festivals that ever disgraced pagan Rome. If you could think of any vile pagan ritual, there was none more vile than this time of the year, okay? This Feast of Christmas, it was vile, okay? The Feast of Saturn lasted for 5 days, a very loose time of the year. Tebeth, Festival of Bacchus, the 25th of December, all of these were related, okay? The Feast of Saturn, like I said, lasted for 5 days. You had all of these different feasts that were within this winter solstice, the Feast of Saturn being one of them, okay? Roman festivals, you had several festivals that were between the 17th through the 21st. That was called Saturnalia. You had the 22nd of December, which was Sigillaria, which was known as the Feast of Dolls, when a fair was held and dolls and other toys were given to children. So that's where we got that whole custom. The 25th was Brumalia, the birthday of the unconquered sun. Okay. The Christmas tree. Let's talk about the Christmas tree again real quick. Pagan, Roman, and Egypt had the fir tree and the palm tree. So you have pagan Rome and pagan Egypt. Pagan Rome was the fir tree. Pagan Egypt was the palm tree. Okay. One was called Baal Berith, and the other one was Baal Tamar. Okay. The mother of Adonis, the sun god, was mystically said to have turned into a tree. And we talked about that briefly from the ashes of the Yule log, right? She is the tree and the sun is the branch. The reason for the Yule log and the birth of the sun, the new tree, I am the vine, ye are the branches. You see the connection there? Satan is always trying to mimic, always trying to imitate God and put his twist on things, okay? The Yule log is known as the dead stock of Nimrod. When we're talking about Nimrod, we're going all the way back to the book of Genesis. Nimrod was the guy that was trying to build the Tower of Babel, that had all these people get all this brick and mortar together so that they could build this temple up to the heavens. He wanted to exalt himself. He wanted to ascend to the heavens, just like Satan did, okay? Just like Lucifer got kicked out of heaven for his foolishness. This is Nimrod. This is all thought of as the dead stock of Nimrod. Deified as the sun god, cut down by his enemies. And the Christmas tree is the slain God that's come into life again in the form of his son. This is foolishness. Do you understand this foolishness that's really going on behind this holiday? Do you still want to celebrate this foolishness? How do you Christianize that and say that the tree is the sign of everlasting life? That's the hype that they put on Christ Mass, that the tree is a sign of everlasting life. So you to put this thing in your house and decorate it and celebrate everlasting life. That's foolishness. It represents Tammuz, the son of Nimrod, God rebirthed, okay? The mistletoe, being also known as the man of the branch, okay? The wreath, known as a sun wheel, both the mistletoe and the wreath, sun wheel, both round to represent the sun. In Genesis chapter 10, verses 8 through 11, you see Nimrod attempting to be deified. So various nations all have sacred trees as a result of the spreading of this development of this tale. Okay, they all have their own spin on it. You got the Druids who have the oak tree as their center of attention. Egyptians, the palm tree, as I said before. Rome, the fir tree or the evergreen tree. And all decorated with red berries during the Saturnalia. And the silver and the gold. Now we have lights. We've taken it to the next level, right? The Scandinavians had the fir tree, okay? It was the fir tree, the sacred emblem of their god Odin, which is also called Woden, originally where we get the word Wednesday from, okay? Woden's Day, where we get the word Wednesday, the day of the week, all from paganism. In Europe, the Saxon offer a boar in sacrifice to the sun to propitiate the Queen of Heaven on Christmas Day. The boar was supposed to have slain the false pagan Messiah, also a major element in the Feast of Rome today, okay? And still standard, it's a still standard dish. It's still a standard dish in England today, the boar's head, okay? Odin would bestow Yuletide gifts to those who would approach the sacred fir or evergreen tree on the Brumalia. Gifts under the tree. You see, decorated during the Feast of Saturnalia. St. Nick was a church spin, okay? Odin was the original Santa, but St. Nick was the Roman Catholics' spin on this, making this a Christmas thing. So this guy called St. Nicholas was sainted after his death, not officially, but sainted after his death, was some Roman priest, okay, that did nice things for people or whatever, and he was sainted. He was not a jolly fat man, by the way, but anyway, over time, that came into being from different practices and rituals of paganism, and over time, a bunch of stuff got incorporated, and you got this jolly fat guy. We ain't gonna get into that. You can do your own study, because that's what I want you to do. I don't want you to just take my word. I want you to go get it for yourself. I'm giving you the warning. Jeremiah 10, verses 1 through 6. We know that God told the children of Israel, and he has not changed. Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. The customs of the people are vain. One cutteth down the tree, blah, blah, blah.